Bear down, Chicago Bears. I feel like I got real close yesterday. My prediction for the game was 27-16. Score ended up being a little bit higher than that, with the Bears scoring an extra touchdown and the Chiefs scoring an extra touchdown without the field goals that I thought were going to happen. Final score was 34-21, with the Bears coming out victorious. And look, there's a lot of things to like about what happened yesterday on the field with the Chicago Bears. There was a lot of exciting moments, and there were a lot of people out here that showed out when they needed them the most as the Bears secure the win 34-21 in Arrowhead Stadium against the defending Super Bowl champions. And I know the first thing that you want to say is, well, it's the preseason. It doesn't matter. And that is fair. This is not starters versus starters. This is not game on the line. This is not pressure. This is just the final preseason game where you're trying to find out who's going to make your roster, who's not going to make your roster. I think we've kind of solidified a couple of people with their performances. And look, there's one guy that they're looking for a reason to keep. So I think they found every reason to keep him. There's another guy that got a lot of playing time because I think the Bears really want to see what they've got with him. And it's interesting. So let's check it all out. If you like this content, make sure you hit the like button on the way in. Let's look at the first thing before we get started. We do have to address the quote unquote elephant in the room. And that is Douglas Coleman III was injured on a play last night. This is what it looked like going up to it. He basically stuck his neck. He ended up getting his neck, as you can see right here. He makes the play, and it looks like maybe he just turns his neck the wrong way slightly, and then he crumples to the ground. Doesn't seem to have any motion in his extremities. After this move right here, you can see here, he just kind of falls limp. Kind of an alarming sort of moment. I think a lot of people were kind of scared. This was the scene on the field. He was taken out on a stretcher. However, we were informed a little bit later on that Matt Eberflus says that Douglas Coleman III was moving his limbs and gave a thumbs up on the field. He is at the hospital being evaluated. So waiting for a solid update on that. I'm sure we'll get that today. There'll be a conference and we'll get some clarification on how Douglas Coleman is doing. So if you are concerned, keep him in your prayers because, even if he's okay, it might take a little while. Also being injured was Larry Borum. We don't know the status of the injury on Larry Borum at this point, but I don't have any clarification at this time. And he needed to be assisted to the back as well. So we may have seen our last game with Larry Borum, if that is the case, and in fact. So keep those two guys in your prayers because it's always important. But let's move on to the actual news on what is going on. After this, we had some conversation, and Matt Eberflus did step up. Ryan Poles is looking at defensive tackles and defensive ends. Now, when you look at the job that's been done so far, it looks like the end position might be secured. And if you watch the product on the field, then I think you probably liked a lot of what you've seen from a lot of these guys. Austin Booker has a motor that will not quit. Daniel Hardy has been coming alive. So the defensive ends seem to be okay. The place that we were the most thin has been the defensive tackles position with Javon Dexter and Andrew Billings. But after that, you have Zach Pickens and you have Byron Cowart. You've got a couple people who can play in that position. And Byron Cowart did not look bad. There's no reason to think that there's a problem with his performance so far. However, I get the sense here that the Chicago Bears are probably going to be right on that waiver wire, and they're going to be looking to add some sort of depth to the defensive tackle position. So, and Matt Eberflus said as much. He said, it's not as strong and as deep as you'd want it to be in the tackle room for sure. So there is a concern there. We'll be looking at that as we go. I know Cowart's done a nice job in there for the limited time that he's played, and in practice, he's looked very good. So we have some options there, but we're definitely going to look at that. Now, Andrew Billings, Javon Dexter seem to be okay at this point, so there should not be too much concern from that context. However, any little injury like what happened with Zach Pickens could create a strain on this team. So, um, um, we're in that moment now where and final roster cuts are coming. So we'll see what each team who does each team release. We might get some surprising releases for somebody just looking to make a new start somewhere else. A solid defensive tackle that we can pick up that's just looking for his opportunity. And you never know what you're going to find. So we'll be watching the waiver wires over the next little while to see exactly what happens. But let's get into some of the statistics and let's talk about Velus Jones Jr. ended up having a 100-yard rushing game, settling in 13 rushes for 111 yards, averaging 8.5 yards per carry and a touchdown with a long run of 39 yards. So the Bears ended up and again, it's very difficult to say too much about this and toot any horn because it is preseason, but 33 rushes, 164 yards, averaging 5 yards a rush, 2 touchdowns with a long run of 39. Now, Kansas City also, and this is alarming or should be alarming, 27 rushes for 135 yards, averaging 5 yards as well. You don't like to see that. You do not like to see that. The Bears defense has been the number one rushing defense. So seeing them not perform at a high level against the run, and by the way, again, this is preseason. This is twos and threes trying to find a way to make it on the team. And there were some really good signs that we had. We'll go over a couple of those guys. But generally speaking, you want to see them a little bit more suffocating against the run, and we'll chalk this up to just a bad outing. Anyway, statistically, Brett Rippon, 9 of 13 for 106 yards. Austin Reed, 8 of 10, looking really good. Austin Reed looking really good with 8 of 10 for a touchdown, 63 yards, and Tyson Bagent, 3 of 6 for 57 yards. Nobody did anything bad. Nobody really looked like they didn't belong on an NFL field. And in fact, as you watch Tyson Bagent, and one of the things to remember, by the way, one of those completions that he had was him going across. There was a route going to his left side, and I think it was kind of a weak throw. So maybe that arm strength still needs a little bit of work, but otherwise looked really good at everything else. And it could have just been the angle of the throw. He wasn't able to get a lot on it. But Ian Book for the Chiefs went 6 of 9 for 71 yards with 2 touchdowns. But Chris Oladukin was just harassed by the Chicago Bears. And you know what? He had 2. He was intercepted twice. But the interesting thing about it that was kind of wild. And Reddy Stewart, by the way, Reddy Stewart accounted for both of those interceptions, took one of them back for a touchdown. But he was able to get rid of the ball despite being pressured a lot. And he was under fire the entire game. And, you don't see it in the stat line. There were 4 quarterback hits. And there was 1 sack from the Chicago Bears. But I mean, when you go down the familiar foils, Austin Booker had a quarterback pressure. Adrian Colbert had a quarterback pressure. Khalid Kareem had a quarterback pressure. Deshaun Mallory had a quarterback pressure. But you could sense that there were people all over him every single time. And and can we talk about the safety blitz? Oh my Lord, the safety blitz was coming out of nowhere and was not being picked up by the Chiefs at any point. So looked really good on the field. But Velus Jones now looks like maybe he's found a roster spot. And look, I think the Bears want him to be on this roster. So I'm going to have to change here and say that Velus showed out in a way that probably makes him a keeper. Now we go down the list and we start talking about, well, what else was there? And in rushing, we had Travis Homer with 4 rushes for 13 yards or 3.3 yards a carry. Then we had Kerry Blasingame had 1 rush for 4 yards. Ian Wheeler, however, had 5 rushes for 5 yards, meaning that We gave him the ball more than anybody else rushing, and he did nothing with it. So I'm going to say that what we're probably looking at this point is the running back room is going to be DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, and Velus Jones Jr. We're probably going to see the end of Travis Homer. By the way, one of the things that we might also point out is we saw Tyler Scott on special teams. Maybe that means that Travis Homer is on his way out along with Ian Wheeler as we start to trim and pare down this roster just a little bit. Remember, you can't have an extra running back because you have Kari Blasingame also on the roster at fullback. And I think this is one of only 4 fullbacks in the league. So, you know what I'm saying? What did he do that looked better than Herbert, Swift, or Roshan? It doesn't matter. They're going to go with 4 because they're going to go with 4 and they're going to go with Kari Blasingame. I think they've already said that out loud. So it doesn't matter what he did better than those guys. He's the number 4 option. And with Khalil Herbert, DeAndre Swift, and Roshan Johnson are not going to be on special teams. They still need players on special teams. And Velus is a special teams guy or has been a special teams guy. So I think that he ends up being the one that makes the roster. But I don't know for sure. I mean, you can look at the entire body of work and see he's made a few flubs. So they might be looking at this as a long game. But the fact that they gave him so much opportunity means that they were taking a very hard look at him. Also, having somebody taking a hard look at them, Tyler Scott. I don't know why, because I think it was clear that he was the number 4 guy. But Tyler Scott had 6 receptions for 99 yards, played a lot. He was targeted 9 times. And, just it seemed a little bit odd that he was out there getting so much playing time. But I think the Bears really want to see what do we have with Tyler Scott. Is the flashes that we see, are those really what he is, or is last year more of a testament to what he is? And I think we finally discovered that Tyler Scott can play football, and it's a very good thing for the roster. And by the way, I want to say this: don't take this the wrong way, but I think this gives the Bears a little bit of confidence that they can negotiate with Keenan Allen because now they have Tyler Scott, who seems to be ready to, in the event that we need that slot receiver, because we end up with Roma Dunze on in the Z slot. So I think that they're really kind of looking at what their options are when we make this, when we play this out. Now, we will not know until the break. And I think that's week 8. The Bears have told Keenan Allen they were going to table any discussions until until their bye week. So we don't know, and we won't know for a while what happens there. But Nasimba Webster had 3 receptions on 4 targets for 68 yards, averaging 22 yards a reception. Brendan Bates had a couple of good catches. Tommy Sweeney came up on a couple of short plays, had a few good ones. Velus Jones coming out of the backfield caught 2 balls. John Jackson had 2 receptions for 9 yards. However, John Jackson did fumble the ball, and that was a turnover in a very inopportune moment. This was a team that was really starting to play very well. It was looking like they really were just in control of this game. Again, it's a practice, it's a preseason game, but they look like they were in complete control. And then you have little plays like that, like John Jackson fumbling, DeAndre Carter fumbling, that just kind of changed the trajectory of the game and make it a little bit closer than it had any reason to be. I think the final score probably should have been 34-14 without that fumble, or maybe even 41-14 without that fumble. The Bears looked motivated. The team looked highly motivated. And then Daniel Hardy came in, had 4 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss, no quarterback hits and no sacks, but he was disruptive. He was a disruptive force on the team, also accounting for some really good numbers here. Jonathan Owens had 5 solo tackles, 8 tackles total. Tavarius Moore had 6 total. Micah Baskerville had 5. Carl Jones Jr. had 5. Daniel Hardy had 4. Micah Baskerville probably played his way into the linebacker room. I think that's the one that we're going to hold on to. Amen Agbenamigma. The question now is, are you going to hold 2 of these guys? If that is, then I think Carl Jones is probably out. And I think that Noah Sewell would probably be gone. But we'll see how this kind of plays out. Now, it should be noted that in kick returns, you had Tyler Scott with 2 for 49, DeAndre Carter 1 for 27, and then on punt returns, you had DeAndre Carter 2 for 16, Greg Stroman 1 for 5. And then, of course, you had that one move where they pushed, I think it was DeAndre, they pushed DeAndre into the ball, and he ended up causing that turnover. So Cairo Santos was perfect, and Corliss Waitman averaging 44 yards a kick. Not bad, not great, but not bad. So that's the way it lined up. This was exactly what I expected it to be. There was a little bit more scoring than anticipated, but this was one of those games where it didn't really feel like the game was in jeopardy at any point. Again, preseason game. We're not playing with the full deck, if you will. So, yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, put down what you think in the comment section, and I'm super excited about this season. I think that we're looking at and over the weekend, by the way, I'm going to be doing analysis. We're going to be talking about the roster and what it looks like, and who is going to make the roster. We're going to kind of start to pare it down and see who's not going to make it. Spoiler alert: John Jackson probably not going to make it. And Noah Sewell probably not going to make it. There's some clever foils out there that we're looking at that I'm pretty sure that we're not going to see make this roster, but I'll be interested to see what it is that you think in the comment section. So let me know. In the meantime, that's it. We're going to wrap this up a little bit early because, I mean, we pretty much got it. So it's not financial advice. I'm always right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bear down and fuck Green Bay, and we'll talk to you again very